How's it going, everybody? Ragiroth here. So this week we got a new Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, and it was pretty crappy, save for one. Okay, a couple-ish things. The Cadence of Hyrule stuff was kind of neat, but the stuff that made it actually worthwhile was Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne getting an HD port to Switch and PS4, and finally, after a long time, getting a new trailer for SMT5, as well as a release window. The only thing that I would really like to see is actual gameplay. Of course, you know, a more concrete date would have been nice too, but just getting the year instead of coming soon or in development is just always nice to see. But yeah, just like a battle or two, just see how they work, you know, but it is what it is. At least we know the game isn't cancelled and that there's light at the end of the tunnel. However, what I mainly wanted to talk about in this video was actually the Nocturne port. So first of all, in the trailer, there was a dialogue spoken through voiceovers in English despite, you know, having Japanese text. I first thought this was a trailer narrator, but apparently it's not. Nocturne is actually going to get voiceovers, and it'll be in English. This explains maybe why the release dates between Japan and America are so spaced out for just a port of a game that's almost two decades old. Also, it is Atlas. They take a while with localization. It pretty much always pays off though. But I think this is really cool and unexpected. They didn't have to do this. So now the bigger thing I wanted to talk about was the status of the guest character in Nocturne. So in the trailer, you may notice this guy. Now who is this guy? This is Raito Kusunoha. I hope I said his name right. Main character of two SMT Devil Summoner games. So what does this have to do with Dante from Devil May Cry being Nocturne? Well, you see, there was a version of Nocturne that, well, okay, so I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a version of Nocturne, just regular Nocturne. Then there was the Maniacs version, or Maniacs, I think, version. They added Dante. That's the one that America got. But then they had a re-release called Maniacs Chronicles that added some things, and it included Raito instead of Dante as the guest. So this may mean that the HD port is based off of this version, and will sadly not feature Dante from Devil May Cry, which is kind of a bummer. Though that's not to say Raito isn't cool, he is pretty cool, but come on, it's Dante we're talking about. This is also the only other game we've seen Dante in his really cool Devil May Cry 2 outfit, because we know how much people in Capcom love Devil May Cry 2. So now why? Why would they remove Dante? Isn't he a big selling point for the game? You would think he'd help sell the game a bit better, especially since they're trying to give Devil May Cry a presence on the Switch. Well, if I had to guess the reason, it may be for a few reasons. One, it's extra money to license it from Capcom. This is probably the most likely reason. 2. The Dante Nocturne is debatably the least popular iteration of Dante, at least character and game-wise. Capcom may not want to promote this Dante, at least more than ever. The other issue associated with this is that they'd probably get Ruben Langdon to voice him. Ruben has never voiced the Devil May Cry 2 Dante, and this Dante is dramatically different from the Dantes that he's voiced. Not that he couldn't, they just may not want him to. Now, I guess they could get his Devil May Cry 2 voice actor, Matt Kaminsky, back. I don't know, I just don't see them doing that. I mean, it's been so long since he's voiced Dante. I mean, I think I wouldn't mind. I mean, you know, I'm so used to Ruben voicing him, but it's not the end of the world if he doesn't, you know. If Matt Kaminsky goes back to voice him, I don't really care, but I don't know, it just seems like they want to do that. Third, they might want to push SMT as a whole in its past games more on the Switch, so maybe they think having Raito in would kind of help do that. Lastly, it very well could just be convenience. They could have just been using the Maniacs Chronicles version as the base, and it was just extra unnecessary work to change Raito back to Dante. Though they're also adding voiceover, which is more work. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of these reasons. Here's the weird thing though. The PS3 port, the PlayStation Classics version, ported to the PS3 had Dante. It was the original version. At least for America, maybe Japan got Maniacs Chronicle. Though I guess Though I guess this very well could have just kept Dante because they maybe didn't have to get as much extra licensing or anything like that. Because this version, as far as I know, it wasn't altered. Probably suggesting why he's not going to be in this version. But here's some reasons why Dante could maybe still happen, though again, I wouldn't get your hopes up. First of all, it is possible maybe Ragiroth could just be for the Japanese versions. Now, while the American version of the Direct showed the game with English voiceovers, the text was in Japanese, suggesting it was the Japanese version. They probably know that Dante appeals more to the West as well. No offense to Ragiroth, of course. Secondly, maybe Dante is exclusive to the PS4 version? I mean, he was initially in a PS2 version of the game. Maybe they have some special deal. This would be lame and kind of silly since they're trying to give DMC a larger presence on the Switch. I do doubt this, but it's just something to consider. Thirdly, if that's a word, this would be the ideal scenario. But perhaps they're going to let us change which character we want to be featured in our playthrough of the game. At least in the American version, maybe, because why not advertise Dante now? I do think this is probably wishful thinking, but I mean, it's not impossible. It would be awesome. Even more ideal is that maybe they'd have it so you can get both in one playthrough, though this is even more wishful thinking since they'd have to actually change the game and the plot a good bit. And even more wishful thinking, but I guess they could always have the option to replace Ragiroth after the game already launches as like an update or DLC as kind of like a bonus. But honestly, yeah, I would probably expect Dante to just not be in this version. I'm trying to look at different possibilities though. I don't know if we got official word from Atlas yet, so let's just see what happens though. And if we really don't get Dante in the game at all, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. No pun intended, because the game's about the apocalypse. Even though Dante was kind of the big drawing point to Nocturne for me, it's still one of my favorite RPGs ever, and it got me into Shin Megami Tensei and indirectly Persona as well. So I'm eagerly looking forward to this, and SMT5 of course. And I do advise everyone who would be in it more for Dante, at least try and give this game a shot regardless. It is tough, the game difficulty that is, but they're going to have an easier mode. This was something added in the Maniacs Chronicle version called Merciful. And I personally think SMT4 and Apocalypse were actually harder than Nocturne. But here's the good news I can definitely tell you. It's not like there's no way to get the version to play as Dante. If you have a PS3, backwards compatible PS3, or a PS2, you can get that, or a PS2, you can get that version of the game and still play it. The PS3 online store has the game for like, I think only $10. Once I get my damn PS3 reactivated, I'm going to re-download it and play through that version. If you have a backwards compatible PS3 or PS2, you could of course get a physical copy of the game online or something. Now while I usually always go for physical when I can and encourage others to do so, I honestly think in this case, just getting the digital version would be easier and cheaper, and you don't have to worry about the disc getting scratched. Even though I'd rather have Dante in the definitive version of the game that I could play portably, but it is what it is, and at least it'll feel like a fresher experience for me, and I do want to see what Ragiroth would be like, especially because I think I was kind of interested in trying this, his spin-off games. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you bummed that Dante probably isn't going to be in this version of Nocturne? Do you prefer Ragiroth being in? Or do you think there's a chance that we could somehow get both? I'd love to hear your thoughts, but thank you so much for checking out this video, and as I always say, for the time or the place, keep being awesome. Also, am I the only one that thinks it's a travesty that there's a Demi-Fiend outfit in the Persona 5 dancing game, but not Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal? What the hell, Atlas?